Manager Miller.
Mr. Chair, yeah, we did lose the connection to YouTube and they're working on it right now.
Thank you, Manager Miller. Is there anybody else from the public that would like to address the board and speak on this issue?
User 123. There's a call-in user 11, 12, 13, 14. I don't know who they are, but if any of those are individuals from the public that would like to speak to this issue, they could unmute and ask to make a comment.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. So if there's anybody,
what we've done and decide what we want to do going forward. Yeah.
I'm sorry, but who's talking?
This is Kyle.
This is Kyle
Harwood. Go ahead, Kyle.
I'm not sure Kyle intended to talk. I think he's just listening to the meeting.
Okay. Okay, once again, I'll ask if there's anybody from the public who would like to address the board. Okay, seeing none, we have in a second. I'm going to go to a roll call vote. Commissioner Hansen?
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton?
Yes.
Commissioner Moreno?
Yes.
Commissioner Garcia?
This is a challenging, difficult decision for me, but I did due to the circumstances and what's happening, what's going on. And the second one, Sonia, thank you for actually bringing that forward as into negotiations that we're actually trying to save the employees their jobs, because it is a huge moving target out there, a whole different world that we live in. So with all the stuff going on, my vote is yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Garcia. And as Commissioner Garcia stated, it's a very difficult decision. And I mean, right now it already has passed with 4 votes. But I'm going to go ahead and vote in the affirmative as well. But I do want to say that, I want to make sure that we take care of our employees and that we make sure that we find a position.
Anybody that wants to call in to make a public comment or bring for consent.
Okay, do we have anybody from the public? Address the board on any issues. Please unmute your line so we can hear you. Okay, seeing nobody from the public that wants to address the board, I'm going to close matters of public concern and go on to our next item, which is item number 7. Matters from the county manager. 7A is the miscellaneous updates. And then there's also 7B, which is the COVID-19 emergency updates and requests for direction and potential action. I'm going to go to County Manager Miller.
Mr. Chair, I'm just pulling up. I've got 2 computers going here, so I was looking for the latest on our COVID-19 response, but I'm not finding it right. Oh, here we go. So, as you know, we've had to change the way Santa Fe County does business, and it has been challenging, but I have to once again commend all of the staff who have worked so hard to make it so that we can provide services, still continue to provide services, but protect the public and protect county staff from too much interaction with the public. We have approximately 150 employees who are working remotely. And once again, want to thank the IT staff for making that happen and those employees for utilizing their own personal resources to accommodate us in that effort. Additionally, we do have all of our facilities are generally closed to the public, but we do have meetings or access by appointment only. And you can go to the website and get the schedule, but Between 10 and 11 is the county clerk. Between 11 and 12 are appointments with the county assessor. Between 12 and 1, it's appointments with our growth management office. And between 1 and 2, appointments with county treasurer. We still have had quite a few individuals from the public that have needs, and these are critical needs to come in and actually have interaction with county staff, county elected officials, or county directors. But we are limiting that contact to every degree possible and still provide those services. We also, Public Works facility is closed to the public except for the foyer where they can come in and drop off utilities payments, but they also, both facilities have a drop box. I want to reiterate that at Catron on the Grant Street side, we have a drop box specifically for the treasurer's office and property tax payments. And on the Griffin side entrance by the parking lot is where we have a drop box for other functions. And we are emptying that a couple of times a day and getting anything that the public has dropped off to us to the right county staff to respond. We also, so we've cut down on traffic in all of our buildings to a minimum from the public, and all staff that are remaining in the county facilities have much more social distancing than just the 6 feet. Staff are not working in cubicles next to each other. Most staff are in private offices with the doors closed or significantly separated by a cubicle or more from any of their coworkers. Many of the staff, and I really appreciate this of Santa Fe County staff, they don't want to go home. They want to keep working and they want to provide services to the community. And I appreciate that. I just want to make sure that they are safe in doing so, and that they practice washing their hands, not touching their face, keep social distance no matter who they're talking to. Also, we are working to put out a policy that implements the mandatory leave requirements of the Federal Families First Coronavirus Response Act. That's a mouthful. That was the act first passed by Congress and signed by the president that expands Family Medical Leave Act. And its primary goal was to do what the federal government, our policy is to primarily do what the federal government is requiring us to do. And so we are just putting that policy in place so people understand how to utilize those provisions, those items provided for in that act. We just wanted to make sure we got that policy in place. We don't anticipate that this is the last policy relative to work arrangements. As things develop with COVID-19, we have found that we have to continually address policies. This is not something where I think Greg and I come in every morning and say, what happened yesterday, or what happened this morning, or what happened last night, that we need to make sure we put out a clear policy or directive to county staff, or clear information to the public of how they would further interact with us. So those are just a few things. I also wanted to highlight that we have, and in conjunction with the Christ of St. Vincent's, they've been really good to work with us. In the case of the public defender who tested positive for COVID-19, any of our inmates or individuals that had direct contact with that public defender have been tested, and those tested come back negative for our inmates. Additionally, we had, I think, 3 other inmates that have been tested, and those tests have come back negative. I don't think we have any additional pending tests, but if we do, I could chime in on that. We also have had some employees tested, but not as a result of their interaction in their job duties, more as a result of interaction in their personal lives with somebody who may have tested positive. So our employees are doing well and best we can tell, practicing safe distancing and proper personal protective equipment when they are responding to any calls that may be COVID-19 related. I think that's about it. I did share we have, I believe, 3 more cases in Santa Fe today. I don't have any other details about that, or 4 new cases in Santa Fe County today. I don't have any other details, but the administration has been letting me know before those are published, just the number of new cases in Santa Fe County. So I believe adding that to the 38, I think we had this morning, that would put us at 42 in Santa Fe. And with that, I stand for any questions. That's really the only updates I have, unless you have additional questions.
I don't have any additional questions. Any other commissioners?
Mr. Chair, Manager Miller, I don't know if this is the appropriate place, but Randall Kippenbrock, the director of SWAMA, has just put out a press release today for residents, and the Green Waste Amnesty weekend of April 4th and 5th has been canceled. The Scrap Tire Amnesty weekend of April 4th and 5th has been canceled, and the Free Trash Day on April 18th has been canceled. And we do have more events coming up in May for people, but we're trying to really limit the amount of people who come to SWAMA. Their hours have been reduced. It seems that the highest influx of people coming to BERT, and all these free days are at BERT, seem to be in the last hour. And but they're trying to keep people spaced out so that there's a proper social distancing at the BERT facility.
Thank you, Commissioner Hansen. Any other comments, questions from the rest of the commissioners? Commissioner Garcia?
Mr. Chair, this is Rudy. Thank you. Just a couple of questions. Thank you, Manager Miller and your entire team, and everybody from public safety to the individuals taking meals to the seniors, everybody on staff, to the road crew. I was out there watching the road crew. And anyway, thank you for all the staff that was out there working. And just really quick, so the DA's office had some sort of a situation out there. Did we get somebody to clean that, or how does that going to happen if we actually get a building that's infected, or did we get it cleaned, or how does that work?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Garcia, yes, so the public defender that tested positive had indicated that they were in district attorney's office. So we immediately, first of all the employees were sent home. Our facility staff right on top of making sure that we contracted with a company that specializes in that type of environmental cleaning, and that facility was cleaned. I think it took Thursday, Friday, and Saturday to do that. We also, because the public defender had been in the county jail, we cleaned the areas where the public defender had been and where they had met with inmates. And we did that same type of intensive cleaning in the jail. And then we also tested, we took the inmates that had direct contact with that public defender to be tested, and all of those tests came back negative.
Thank you once again. Appreciate that, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Garcia. Commissioner Moreno? Commissioner Moreno, are you there? Do you have a comment, sir?
No, I'm good.
Okay, Commissioner Hamilton?
No, I don't have any additional questions, but just want to thank Manager Miller and the entire staff for the extra level of effort that's having to go into this.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Hamilton. I'd like to express the same gratitude to staff for their hard work. Manager Miller, was that both of those items, 7A and B? It was correct?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair,
this is
yes,
Rudy.
Commissioner Garcia, you got an additional comment?
Just really quick, I know it's kind of recommend that we do outdoor projects, so on and so forth, but really quick, I got asked several questions. Are we still issuing burn permits? Do we know?
Mr. Chair, is Chief Litzenberg on the line?
And the reason why I'm asking is because a lot of the SECIOs or the ditch associations will be cleaning their ditches in the next couple of weeks, and there's a lot of debris, so I was wondering if we're issuing burn permits.
County Manager Miller, I can find out real quick.
Mr. Chair, Director Cedillo, if you could ask, I see that Jacob Blanc is on here, as well as, I know.
Yes, we are. County Manager Miller, they just indicated to me that we are accepting online, and they're able to do it online.
Thank you all. Appreciate that.
Thank you very much. Did you have any other comments, Commissioner Garcia?
No, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Was that the end of those items, Manager Miller, or did you have something else?
Mr. Chair, that's all I have under those items.
Okay. So next we're going to go to matters from county commissioners. And so I'm going to go down to item 8A. And so is there any comments or announcements from county commissioners? I'll go to Commissioner Hamilton first. Commissioner Hamilton, did you have any announcements, comments?
Yeah, I do. Two. One, if I'm not mistaken, BC Tony Ricchetti retired today. I'm not totally sure today was his last day, but the whole fire department was paged out this morning at 7:15 to announce his retirement and talk about his accomplishments. And, under the current restrictions, we're not all getting together and able to, celebrate somebody's retirement as has been done in the past. So I thought it was a wonderful idea that the fire department actually paged and announced that. And so I wanted to take the opportunity to mention it to the public and to congratulate him and thank him for all his service. And then also I wanted to say that if this coming Saturday is the first Saturday of the month, and even though we're not able to get together in person, I'm going to do a virtual coffee with the commish from 9 to 11. And I believe it's going to be on Zoom, and Tina Salazar has gotten some announcements out to the District 4 people, and I think it will also be on Facebook. And so that invitation will go out, but everybody should look for it.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Hanson. I'm going to go to Commissioner Hamilton. I'm going to go to Commissioner Hanson. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to everyone. First, I too want to thank staff, Manager Miller and Greg and Sonia and everyone who is in the county complex, who are liaisons for being at the front door in the last couple of weeks to help people, just the whole staff. Just thank you so much for all your hard work during this really challenging time. It is really an unusual situation. I also want to mention that, we did pass this Earth Day resolution. County manager and I have talked about the possibility of, doing this possibly in the summer when we hopefully have moved on from the events of this quarantine or stay-at-home order that we're under. So I'm hoping that can happen in the future, and we can all continue to remember how important the environment is to all of our beings. And I want to thank Commissioner Garcia for mentioning that acequias is definitely a time when they need to be cleaned. And, thinking about that is also really true. Manager Miller was recently on the Richard Eves show and gave a really good presentation. And I'm going to be on the Richard Eves show on this Friday at 2 p.m. So I look forward to speaking to our constituents and giving them whatever updates I can. So, of course, all of this is being done remotely, like everything, like the coffee with the commish. Good job on doing it remotely. I'm interested to see how that goes. Otherwise, thank you for everything. And thank you, Mr. Chair, for running the meeting. And we'll all see each other on the other side.
Thank you, Commissioner Hanson. I'm going to go back to Manager Miller really quickly here. She had a couple of more updates that she wanted to bring forward. Manager Miller.
Mr. Chair, as I said earlier, I was looking for a couple of emails to give you the updates on the from the coronavirus task force that's the county's internal task force. So I just wanted to give those because I couldn't find it when I was talking earlier. But as of March 30th, there have been 281 New Mexicans who have tested positive, and then 38 that reside in Santa Fe. And then I told you we got 4 more today, so 42 in Santa Fe County. I told you about the that testing, but also I wanted to add that our senior services is currently providing about over 350 home delivered meals per day to our seniors. And we have our Meals on Wheels, but what they have done is contacted all those seniors that also had congregate meals and making sure if they want meals delivered, we're doing that. We also have a system set up between Santa Fe County first responders and Christus St. Vincent's to have immediate testing and pretty immediate results. Anyone who may have been exposed on our staff and the first responders. And then also, this is something that came out today about, according to national projections, New Mexico is set to peak the week of April 23rd. So I think we're going to continue to see an increase in cases in New Mexico over the next several weeks before we actually peak and start to go down. And then also our Office of Emergency Management. I know some people have talked about, did we stand up our Emergency Management Office, our EOC? And it is ready, but we have not called it into action. As Martin Vigil explained at our last meeting, at our special meeting, that's a whole another level of service. But that group is working, and they're working with the state to increase the capacity to provide EMS transports during that potential peak time the week of April 23rd. I just wanted to give you those additional updates. Thank you.
Thank you, Manager Miller. So I'm going to go, I know I went to Commissioner Hamilton and Commissioner Hanson. I'm going to go to Commissioner Moreno. Did you have any announcements that you would like to make, Commissioner Moreno?
Well, not an announcement, but I want to support. I want to support the people in healthcare and the police and all the people that work for us. And that's my parting shot. I'm supporting all the people that have their public servants, and we appreciate them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moreno. I'm going to go to Commissioner Garcia.
Just real quick, once again, thank you for everybody. Thank you for the general public for bearing with us during this moving target, the new world that we live in. Just a little announcement. I had a rumor today that it's somebody's 35th anniversary. So that's actually Commissioner Moreno and his wife. I'd just like to wish him a happy anniversary today. Congratulations. And too bad you can't take her out to dinner, but congratulations, Mr. Moreno, for 37 years with your wife. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Garcia, for. There you go. There you go. Hey, you can still pick up, right?
Yeah.
Congratulations, Commissioner.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to go on to our next item, and it's actually item number 9. It's for other elected officials. I believe the only other elected official that we had on the line today was Madam Clerk Geraldine. Are you on the line? Did you have any announcements?
Yes, thank you, Chair and Commissioners. I want to thank everyone, especially county staff in general, for the assistance to deal with this pandemic. Currently, the county clerk's office has 14 staff out working remotely. We have 10 in the office still and 3 at the warehouse. We're looking at a second round of having staff in the clerk's office work at home. If they have any concerns at all, we will have them work at home. We have a digitization project that we've been doing long before I was ever here. So we have a lot of work for staff who are home, and that's making sure that our e-filing is indexed. Our digitization, massive digitization project for over 20 years is being continued. And so we have work for staff. We're busy when we're here open, as you could see from people wanting to, in the past, come to the clerk's office. So I appreciate and I want to thank my staff for being the greatest team that can continue to do the work that we have to do, because we have a lot of responsibilities in the clerk's office. Not one, not two, we have many. And one of the greatest responsibilities is a part of our democracy is running elections. And I also want to announce to the public and voters and the citizens of Santa Fe County that 27 county clerks went to the Supreme Court yesterday to ask that we can conduct an all-mail ballot. We have great concerns about our poll workers and our staff having to be out there running an election. If the Supreme Court issues in favorable of this writ, we will still have to have 4 service centers, not for voting, but for helping those that need help, whether it be a provisional ballot or a new ballot, something that's lost and that we can track that. And so we're going to be required, even if we have an all-mail ballot, to have 4 service centers for the public, and then also the clerk's office. So we'll work on managing that. So thank you all to our citizens and our county staff. Please continue to wash your hands, and social distancing is so important. You can go on a pretty amazing doctor's training video that we posted on the clerk's office that I found very hopeful and very insightful. So please go on there and see this video. I think it helps us understand more from a doctor who is in the trenches of this virus in New York, back east. So take care. Best of health to all of us. And thank you so much for everyone's cooperation and consideration of each other.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Salazar, we really appreciate your comments and we really appreciate you working with your staff to keep them safe during this pandemic. I think that you're doing great steps that I'm sure they appreciate as well. So thank you for doing that. Is there any other elected officials that would like to make an announcement?
Mr. Chair, this is Rudy again. Nobody has any.
Commissioner Garcia?
Can you give us an update on the laboratory? Is the laboratory closed or portions of it? Do you know?
The laboratory is actually following somewhat of the same guidelines. They have a lot of their staff, anywhere from 9,000 employees, I think, or a little bit more than that, maybe up to 10,000 employees that are working remotely from home. So they do have some staff that is there for some of the critical experiments and other critical work that's going on. But they are also sending people in sort of people work twice a week. So they're kind of rotating just to make sure that they keep that social distancing. So doing a really great job as well at the laboratory, making sure that we have staff that is there keeping critical facilities going and doing the preventive maintenance of the other systems that need to keep going during this time. So they have put a lot of different things in place to protect the staff as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Then one other thing is, I don't know if I missed this one, but are the county parks closed?
Mr. Chair, they're not closed, and most of what we have, so like the facilities are closed. So Stanley Center, the Pewaukee ball fields. But what we have tried to encourage, one of the things that we're really looking at, and as a matter of fact, I know there is a constituent in your area where asking about the parking lot areas. What we've been looking at is how we can make sure people don't collect in the parking lot. I was actually going to say I went on the trail that goes out towards Diablo Canyon this weekend, and it was actually really nice to see so many people out but far apart. I don't think I ride my bike on there quite frequently or run, and I don't think I've ever seen so many people using our trails. But what I did notice is they were actually being really good about staying far apart from each other. You might see family members together, but see some of the family members together, but not everybody else was fairly spread out in distance. And so what we worked on was signage at our facilities to remind people to stay separate, but we have not closed our trails and the few open space properties that we have open to the public. We have not closed them.
Thank you. And then also just please keep in contact with all the providers as you guys have done, including Presbyterian Medical Services as well. But thank you.
Mr. Chair, Manager Miller.
Commissioner Hanson.
Have we been wiping down like the playground equipment at Romero Park, or have we been taking any precautions in that regard to some of, I know that's the only real park we have, at least in my district. I know there's in the Pewaukee ball field, but the playground equipment, does anybody wipe the playground equipment down or?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Hanson, I don't believe so. It doesn't mean that we can't, but to be honest, it'd be very difficult to wipe it down after every use. It's kind of like, gym facilities have closed because of that, because you can't wipe it down after every single person uses it. You have to rely on people to do that themselves. So like I said, I think that we can go in and have our staff clean it, but as soon as a group of people use it, it really is ineffective there's nothing that we can do that keeps it clean for use after use.
Is that really?
Maybe we can suggest that people, themselves wipe it down and remind people to wash their hands. I at least, remind them about what's happening to them, and how important it is to maintain cleanliness of our hands and face, and anyhow, thank you.
Commissioner Hanson, I think that's a great idea to have some sort of signs out there as reminders to, the kids that are using it and the parents. So I think that'd be good. I think pretty much everybody is pretty aware, but it doesn't hurt to have extra signs out there to remind everybody. So thank you for mentioning that.
Mr. Chair, it's Rudy again.
Hey, Commissioner Garcia.
Also, just I saw that Bernalillo County is possibly releasing some detainees from their facility out there. I don't know if we've checked with the judges and see what their position is, but just so long as we're on top of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Garcia.
Mr. Chair.
Yes,
Commissioner Garcia, we have done quite a bit of that already. We've worked with the judges on any time. First of all, the sheriff has set protocols in place to not make arrests and book people into our facilities on misdemeanors. Additionally, we worked with the city police to put out that same order so that we're not booking people into the facility and exposing them or inmates that are already in the facility to individuals who might bring COVID-19 into the facility. Also, we have gone through and done a really good analysis of all of those who are currently in our facility and been working with the judges to get released any individuals that would meet the ability to be released if they have underlying health conditions that pose a risk and they have misdemeanor or nonviolent crime charges against them.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I think you're actually muted still.
Okay. I'm going to go on to item number 10, and this is matters from the county attorney. Attorney Schaefer, can you give us a summary of what we'll be going into executive session for?
Manager Miller, you're muted.
Mr. Chair?
Now I am. So after Greg reads that item and you take a vote to go into executive session, we'll need everybody to get off of the line except for the 5 commissioners, Mr. Schaefer, and a couple of other things, and myself. Additionally, before we go into that, want to know if there are any commissioners have any questions on reports that are in your packet, so that we can make sure we take care of that now while all of the directives are on the line.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Okay, go ahead, Commissioner Hamilton. What's your?
Are we going to also? I don't know. I hear a lot of interference. Are we gonna actually have item 11 as public hearings? I just wonder, should we do that before executive and do executive last?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Hamilton's correct. I never thought we'd actually take till 5:15. So originally when we planned the meeting, we thought we'd have time to go into executive session and then have to come back. We have 2 items on the agenda under public hearings under item 11. We have 2 ordinances for you to consider, and so what I would suggest and concur with, and glad that Commissioner Hamilton brought it up, is that we first ask if there are any questions on item 12, any of the reports, and then go to item 11, public hearings, and do 11A and 11B, because you will have to open those, open a public hearing and take public comment on both of those items. In addition, you will have to do roll call vote on both of those. And after we finish those, then go into have everybody get off of the line except the commissioners, the attorney, and the manager, and go into executive session, because I don't think that will take long either.
Explanation so that I could say yes, we can do that. Thank you for bringing that forward. Commissioner Garcia.
Once again, Catherine, so we just stay on the line, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Stay on the line, yes, sir. Okay, so I'm going to go on to item number 11. We'll go ahead and deviate from our agenda, and we'll go into executive session afterwards. So we're going to go to our public hearings, and we do have 2 on for tonight. And 11A is an ordinance amending Santa Fe County Ordinance number 2014-10. And this is a solid waste recycling management ordinance as amended by ordinance 2018-7 and 2020-2 to specify that the solid waste permits do not expire. And so from Public Works, we have Mr. Gary Hivon.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, good afternoon. I believe this is the last time this ordinance will come in front of the Commission. It has come through in various iterations. And with this version of the ordinance in this last update, we will remove the expiration provision from the 2019 solid waste permits, and we will amend the January 28th, 2020 ordinance establishing that 2019 solid waste permits do not expire. And this says that going on, the 2020 permits will also not expire. And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Okay, do we have questions from any of the commissioners?
Mr. Chair, this is really just really quick. So that means if somebody buys a permit today, that permit does not expire, correct?
Mr. Chairman, the Commissioner, that is correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Garcia. So if there's not any other questions, I'd like to move for approval.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there anything else under discussion?
Chair, if I could interrupt for 1 second. This is a public hearing, so you should open the ordinance for any public comment to make sure that there are no individuals participating in the meeting who would like to speak on this item.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Schaefer. So we're going to go to public comment. So is there anybody from the public that would like to address the board in regards to this ordinance? Okay, once again, I'd like to ask if there's anybody from the public that would like to address the board in regards to this ordinance. Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close public comment.
Chair Roy Ball.
Yes.
This is County Clerk Geraldine Salazar. When you're ready to take your vote, I will take a roll call. Okay.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second. And so I'm going to go to a roll call vote that will be called by our county clerk, Ms. Salazar.
Yes. So Chair Roy Ball.
Yes.
Commissioner Hanson.
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton.
Yes.
Commissioner Garcia.
Yes, would we please post this on the webpage? But yes, thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Moreno.
Yes.
You have 5 yeses. It passes. And for the record, the ordinance that you just passed is ordinance 2020 number 3.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Clerk. I'd like to next go on to our next ordinance. And our next ordinance is going to be, and this is for public comment as well. Let's see. It's going to be an emergency ordinance authorizing the county manager to extend the due dates for money owed the county and waive fees for county services, waive penalties and interest for late payments, or delay the consequences of delinquent payments during the COVID-19 emergency. And I guess from legal staff, we have Cristela Valdez.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. This is Cristela Valdez.
Good evening.
As you know, last week, the board adopted resolution 2020-24, which declared a public emergency regarding COVID-19 and directed staff to bring forward this ordinance. And the purpose of this ordinance, as the title indicates, is to give the county manager the authority set forth in Section 3, which includes the authority to waive or reduce the typical county fee or charge for county services rendered after the effective date of the ordinance, extend the due date for county imposed taxes due, or the fee or other charge for county services rendered after the effective date of the ordinance, and waive or reduce penalties and interest for late payments due after the effective date of the ordinance, and refrain from imposing consequences for later missed payments. And so when taking action under Section 3, the county manager is required to take into consideration the factors set forth in Section 4 of the ordinance. These include the benefit of the public, the impact to the county, the relative ease of administration, and whether the action can be implemented in an equitable way, and other appropriate factors as determined by the county manager. And then Section 5 of the ordinance requires the county manager to document any actions that she takes and the reasons for taking those actions, and then also sets forth noticing requirements. So for instance, the county manager will have to post a summary of any action she takes under this ordinance on the county website and publish notice in one or more newspapers. So going back to Section 1 of the ordinance, this section establishes that COVID-19 presents a public health and economic emergency that's an immediate danger to the public health, safety, and welfare of the county. And those findings in that section are really necessary to allow the board to take action immediately. And that's because state law allows the board to adopt an ordinance dealing with an emergency that's an immediate danger to the public health, safety, and welfare of the county without first approving the title and general summary. And it also allows the ordinance to become effective immediately upon recordation. So that means that the board may take final action tonight, and if they choose to take action, the ordinance will take effect once it's recorded in the county clerk's office. I now stand for any questions that the board might have.
Okay, do we have any questions from the board?
Mr. Chair, this is Rudy. I do.
Okay, go ahead, Commissioner Garcia.
Just really quick, this does not include penalties and interest for individuals that are not able to pay their property taxes or debt.
Commissioner, that is correct. It does not extend to property taxes or gross receipts. And the reason it doesn't is because the county doesn't have authority to extend the due dates for those or waive penalties and interest.
Thank you. I just wanted that for the record. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Garcia. Any other questions or comments from the board? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to go to public comment. Is there anybody here from the public that would like to address the board or speak on for or against this ordinance? Okay, once again, I'll ask, is there anybody from the public that would like to speak for or against this ordinance? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close public comment. And I'm going to go to the commissioners. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chair, this is Commissioner
Hanson.
I would move to approve this ordinance number authorizing the county manager to extend due for money owed the emergency ordinance.
I'd second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Hanson and a second from Commissioner Hamilton. What I do want to, just under comments, I just want to say that I want to thank, Manager Miller and staff for bringing this forward so that we can do what we can to help our constituents during this time of need. And so is there any other comments from the commissioners?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I just want to add my voice to that. Thank you for doing it and doing it so quickly under pressure and such a good job. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner. Any other comments from the commissioners?
I support it.
Thank you, Commissioner Moreno. Okay, seeing no other comments, we have a motion and a second. Can we get a roll call, Madam Clerk?
Yes, Chair Roy Ball, commissioners. Thanks for the vote. Chair Roy Ball.
Yes.
Commissioner Hanson.
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton.
Yes.
Commissioner Garcia.
Yes.
Commissioner Moreno.
Yes.
Approved.
Thank you.
And for the record, the ordinance you just passed is ordinance number 2024.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we've gone through the public hearings that we had in our ordinance. So I'm going to go back to item number 10, and this are matters from the county attorney. Mr. Schaefer, can you give us a summary of what we'll be going into executive session for?
Yes, Mr. Chair. The purpose for the executive session would be to discuss the acquisition of real property near the Santa Fe County Fairgrounds, as well as executive management personnel issues. And the authority for executive session to discuss those items are Section 1015-1H2 NMSA 1978, as well as Section 1015-1H8 NMSA 1978. And I would recommend, Mr. Chair, that in making the motion to go into executive session, that you make a motion to adjourn the meeting at the conclusion of executive session so that we do not have to come back in to a public meeting for the limited purpose of adjournment. And the statement required by the Open Meetings Act relative to the matters that were discussed in executive session can be added at the next Board of County Commissioners meeting and included in the minutes of that meeting as required by law. And again, that will allow for a more efficient virtual meeting management if we proceed in that fashion. And I'd stand for any questions.
Mr. Chair.
That recommendation. Did somebody just chime in?
It was Commissioner Hamilton. I was going to make a motion if that's appropriate.
Absolutely.
So I'd like to move that we go into executive session for the purposes just defined by the county attorney, and that as part of that, we included in the motion that we adjourn the meeting at the end of executive session and make any necessary statements at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you. I'll accept that motion.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Hamilton, a second from Commissioner Hanson. Can I call, please, Ms. Clerk Salazar?
Yes. Chair Roy Ball?
Yes.
Commissioner Hanson?
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton?
Yes.
Commissioner Garcia? Commissioner Garcia?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Moreno?
Yes.
Thank you. We have 5. Executive session. Good evening.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, everybody. At this time, if you are not a county commissioner, the county attorney, or the county manager, I'm going to ask you to leave the meeting